is Angus Green, and today I've got a podcast about why Eric Ten Hag got sacked from Manchester United as manager.
Eric Ten Hag was dismissed from Manchester United manager after their 2-1 loss to West Ham on October 28th. Eric Ten Hag was appointed in April of 2022 and had 128 games as manager. There has been controversy surrounding him just about for his whole time at the club. With his first game as manager, Man U suffered a 2-1 defeat to Brighton and Hove Albion at their home ground Old Trafford. With the firing of Ten Hag after week 9 in the Premier League season, that's a lot of change for a team that's playing once or twice a week. I asked Jason Pine from Football Fever whether he thinks that the Manchester United board made the right decision and if it was the right time. In his statement, he said that I don't think they really had any choice. The results under Ten Hag weren't improving and weren't really showing any signs of doing so. They've won just 3 of their 10 Premier League games this season, are sitting in 13th place, 13 points behind the leaders Liverpool, and have only scored 9 goals in 10 games. It's their worst start ever after finishing 8th last season, which was their worst finish in the Premier League era. For a club of United's size, Ten Hag saying wasn't tenable. I think they probably gave him 10 games this season to show he could turn things around, and he hasn't. Eric Ten Hag took full advantage of the Manchester United's massive budget because he spent over £600 million on players over his time at Man U. According to Football 365 website, in the past 5 years, Manchester United have spent the second most money amongst teams in the Premier League. The only team above them was Chelsea. Ten Hag released a statement after being sacked, saying he wishes Manchester United fans nothing but success, trophies and glory. As Jason Pine said in his interview, that a club of United size cannot be 13th in the Premier League. Ten Hag also had a 16.7% win rate over 6 games in the Champions League, getting last in their group last year. Over his 2.5 years as manager, Ten Hag spent over £600 million on players, which is extremely high. Even with all his money, they still only got 8th in the Premier League last year and 13th when he was sacked. I asked Sea Larson's coach Phil Green whether Man United gave Ten Hag too much money to spend, and did you like the type of players he bought?
Okay, I think Man U did give Ten Hag too much money. It's a fact that they gave him money and then more money or more players, and after it wasn't successful to start with, so why give him more money to spend on more players when he couldn't make it work for the first handful of players that he bought? So no, I don't think they didn't really seem to have a style of play, and the players didn't seem to have, therefore just seemed to be random players, players from his past that he's used in the past, which clearly just didn't work. And maybe it is because Man U and it's a different culture and it's not Ajax or where he was previously, and he didn't take that into consideration. So no, do they fit the English game? It's not just the club, but it's the English game and the style of play. So it clearly didn't work.
Manchester United have already appointed Ruben Amorim to be their new manager, with his first game in charge being on the 24th of November against Ipswich Town. Hopefully Ruben Amorim will be able to do a better job than Ten Hag.
Welcome to the Newsroom. Today, we're diving into a topic that's sparking a debate around dinner tables in Parliament and across the media: the devastating housing crisis in New Zealand. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, my interview with Nick Tapper has not worked, but I'll give a short description of his job. He is the GJ Gun franchise owner for Queenstown. His job ranges from being operator for Queenstown, Cromwell, and Wanaka regions of New Zealand. First, you will hear from Jack Ackland. He is a senior associate in Partners Performance, London area, United Kingdom. Part of AccuCentre. It is an agile, fast-growing international management consultancy and a leading global player for driving operations effectiveness and organizational excellence for complex organizations, which will give us a broad insight into the housing crisis. I'm Max Nelson, and this is the Newsroom. Then you'll hear from Sam Nelson, my dad. He's a business and commercial property lawyer specialist with expertise spanning a range of industry sectors.
Where I live in London at the moment, we're definitely in like a slightly rougher area. I think as a result, there's actually the prices of everything in the area are cheaper, right? So the prices of rent is cheaper, but even the prices of food and haircuts and all that stuff at the shops is cheaper.
In the first question, Jack says he quite likes his area and he's balanced on it because it gives a cheaper option for people to live. It's a bit rougher. It also drops the prices for shops and haircuts and stuff like that. And Jack's balanced about this. He says it's good for young families, for them to be able to afford living.
As I kind of related to in the first question, I'm living in a more affordable area of London out east, and you can see that this area is potentially prone to gentrification in the same way that the inner city suburbs of, say, somewhere like Auckland, in particular Greyland and Ponsonby, were gentrified kind of over the last 40 years, and kind of turn these areas into slightly less affordable areas and kind of start to create the housing crisis, because there's not an availability of cheap houses for people to move into if it's close to the city centre, i.e., there's a housing shortage.
Jack thinks, in the second question, his area is prone to gentrification, which basically means over 40 years higher income, well, people with more potential to earn higher income could possibly stay living there, which could cause a housing crisis and potentially bump up all those prices like haircuts, shopping.
If I'm honest, when I first left, the housing crisis didn't have an impact on me leaving. There is some impact in that I know in the back of my mind what it costs to buy a house in New Zealand, and I know as a result the bank deposit required to buy a house, and I also know as a third factor that my earnings potential is higher overseas. So it's the relationship between house prices.
In the third question, Jack, when he left back in 2019, he didn't really think of the housing crisis, but now that he's thinking about coming back, he said he really needs to probably make some cash before he can come back because of the housing crisis and what it costs to buy a house. The currencies in foreign countries are higher to the New Zealand bill, which is another factor of could be better to live in a foreign country. But Jack says he's definitely going to need to make some more cash before he comes back.
We live in Arrowtown, and houses have become very expensive in Arrowtown over the last 10 years or so, and that's because there's a lack of supply driven by a shortage of land and our planning regulations, which means house prices have gone up a lot, and young families and first home buyers have been forced out of Arrowtown. Our Arrowtown school roll has dropped as a consequence, and the community has been replaced somewhat with holiday makers and retired people that have the wealth to afford houses there.
In the first question, Sam said due to the lack of land and houses, the prices have gone up, which means first home buyers and young families cannot afford them, which means the Arrowtown school will have less and less people going to it. Older people who are cruising into retirement are taking those houses because they can afford them, and people buying them for holiday homes who obviously can afford it more than the young families.
It's a great example of a shortage of supply driving up prices and impacting first home buyers and young families from being able to access into a community.
Sam didn't say much in the second question, but he did say because of the market driving up those prices, it means young family owners or young family first buyers cannot buy those houses in the wanted areas.
They need to work hard to build up their deposit to be able to afford to buy a house. They need to access good advice, government support, KiwiSaver, and take good advice from a financial advisor or mortgage broker.
For the third question, Sam recommended to young home buyers to save up on their KiwiSaver, seek advice from professional people. They also recommended to have a spare bedroom or a spare studio to rent out for them to be gaining money on their property. He said be flexible on what you buy because it's a hard market out there. This is the Newsroom, and this is all I've gathered on the housing crisis. Out.
Hi, I'm George, and welcome to the Newsroom. Today, we'll be diving into the rising competitiveness of rowing and exploring whether the shift has enhanced the sport or if it has altered its essence in ways we might not expect.
As part of my investigation into whether rowing has become too competitive, I, George Haddon, from the Christ College Newsroom, will be exploring various perspectives on the evolving nature of the sport. Rowing, long known for its camaraderie and teamwork, has seen increasing pressure for elite performances and success. To gain a deeper understanding, I will be speaking with key figures involved in the sport, including Mr. O'Leary, Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Smith, and lastly, Arthur Brown. Through their insights, I aim to assess if the drive for victory is overshadowing the essence of rowing and its traditional values. Firstly, we'll be looking into why boys originally began rowing.
I think there's various reasons for why boys row. One is obviously because they want to do it with their mates. Sometimes they're also not sure on what other sports they want to do, so they end up rowing. A lot of times people in their family, dads, mums have rowed, or their sisters row at other schools. And I think once people get a taste of it and they enjoy it, then they want to stick around. I also think that boys like getting fit and strong and doing something that's hard for their mental well-being as well.
Next, we will be seeing if coaches think that the mindset of rowers has changed.
I don't think it has changed dramatically certainly in the 20 years I've been at Christ College. Boys are still motivated by the same thing. They want to do it because they have fun with their mates. Winning tends to come further down that list. Boys always want to win, and that's pretty cool. But I really haven't seen a change. And it's not a philosophy we discuss in the club as winning anyway. So I'd be surprised if a lot of boys thought that was the most important thing about rowing. So no, it hasn't changed a lot. I think there is a small percentage of schools, coaches and athletes for whom winning at all costs is really important. But from what I see, most of those people in those schools and those organisations still believe in doing it for the right reasons. If you look at some of the incidents we've had over the years in terms of bringing in too many scholarships or year 14s, which I call cheating, it's still a very, very, very small number of schools do it. And I think it's always going to be there. And it's a shame, but you get that sort of attitude in all walks of life, not just rowing. But yeah, certainly the parents, coaches and athletes I know around the country still believe in we do sport. Because look, it's a minority sport. You're not going to earn loads of money at it, so why cheat anyway? That's not a great reason to cheat, but most people I think do it, including my own kids, do it because they just love the sport and what they get out of it.
Next, we'll be looking into the motivation of a rower.
I think what motivates me to row is probably definitely the enjoyment I get from the sport and the aspects of the equipment Christ College has and being on the water and the opportunities rowing has. Also love the fitness and regattas and competitions, but mainly just love for the sport.
Lastly, we will be looking into whether the pressure to perform at a high level has changed rowers' approach.
The pressure of performing at a higher level to get into A-boats for Māori Cup and other races has definitely changed my perspective and the way I do things at rowing. I try a lot harder and I put much more effort in, and I think that it definitely adds more more pressure, because the whole time I'm thinking about getting a top boat, and it's kind of treating it like a competition between my peers and teammates, which isn't the best thing overall, but you can't really avoid it anyway. But the main focus is to get better scores on ergs, better techniques, to get into the top boat.
I conclude that while rowing may be growing increasingly competitive, people continue to cherish the fun and joy that the sport brings. Their sense of camaraderie, the thrill of the water, and the satisfaction of personal achievement remain at the heart of the experience, no matter how intense the competition becomes.
Hi, I'm Alex Harrison, and this is a Newsroom, and my topic is about sports psychology. Thomas Clayton and I have been interviewing PE teachers and students around school and asking them a few questions about this important topic.
When we think about sports, we usually focus on the physical side, such as speed, strength, and skill. But there's another side that's just as important, the mental game. Staying focused, handling nerves, and bouncing back from tough moments can be the difference between winning and losing. That's where sports psychology comes in. It's all about how athletes train their minds to perform at their best, stay motivated, and deal with pressure. It's not just for professionals. These strategies can help anyone who's passionate about sports. In this audio package, Harry Wilson, Thomas Clayson, and I, Alex Harrison, have interviewed different PE teachers around school and will be asking them a variety of questions to do with sports psychology. First, Thomas Clayson will be interviewing Mr. Ben McBrearty, where he will be discussing his thoughts and opinions about this important topic.
Hello, I'm here with Miss McBrearty to talk about sports psychology, and I've got a couple of questions to ask him. So, sir, what is pressure and is it good or bad?
So, pressure is what an individual feels internally as to how they are interpreting what's happening externally.
Yeah.
And it's the extent to which they feel the need to perform. Is probably how I'd define it.
Yeah.
And to answer your question as to whether it's good or bad, well, it depends. It depends on a couple of different things. I think it's dose dependent or contextual. So it depends on the amount of pressure that person is feeling.
Yeah.
And it also depends on that individual's capacity to be able to withstand that pressure. So if someone has a high tolerance for pressure, and they're able to handle it and are still able to perform, no issues. If somebody's unable to handle that pressure and it makes them crumble or perform at a lower level, then it's a bad thing.
Yeah, okay. And the other question was, if you don't get nervous, does that mean you don't care?
Well, no, it doesn't. So I think the only reason to feel nervous is when you haven't prepared well enough. If you're confident in the way that you've prepared, so if we're talking sport, if we're confident in the way that you've trained leading into the event, then there's no real reason to feel nervous as well. So if it's a performance anxiety thing about feeling nervous about performing, that can be a good thing. Yeah. But again, it sort of depends on if that person responds well to nerves. I don't really think it's a care factor thing. So some people probably feel excited, and for them it's an unusual thing to feel nerves, but it just depends on that person's reaction to it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, sir.
And now we have George Curry, followed by Hunter Shallard, expressing their thoughts and opinions on sports psychology and how they deal with pressure.
I'm here with George Curry, a fellow Year 10 in Flowers House. So, George, how do you handle pressure in a sports game?
Let's say if I took a kick, I'd mainly focus on my breathing. It keeps me relaxed, and I guess that's the main thing. And to work on it, I like to listen to music because that quite calms me down.
Keeps you relaxed?
Yeah, in practice.
Yeah.
But if it's in a sports game, I just vision where I want kick to go and just keep relaxed.
Yeah, that's good. And do you think pressure is good or bad?
It's great.
It's great?
Yeah.
Hello. So I'm here with Hunter Shallard, the 15A halfback, and I'm going to ask him a question. So Hunter, do you think pressure is good or bad?
I think pressure is a very good thing, but some people may overthink it and think that the world's going to end if they don't perform at the highest level of their sport or don't meet their expectations that they were trying to beat. But pressure is good because it pushes you to go places where you wouldn't have gone without pressure. It's just to push you along, and it's good motivation to get you up to the top.
That's good. Thank you.
All in all, sports psychology is a great subject, and something like pressure is something we all feel in different situations. And as humans, there are lots of different ways we can overcome this feeling to help us perform better in the moment, which will help in the long run. Thank you for listening.